Welcome back, everybody. This is part 2 of my 3-part series of how I made carbon fiber taillight enclosures for the original Tesla Roadster. In part 1, we made the molds. So these are 2 of 4 molds we made. These are the exterior side. So this is the driver's side, passenger side, and for the purposes of this video, I'm going to show how I made one side. So we're going to do the passenger side because it's a little simpler. First thing to do was actually to apply the tacky tape. The purpose of this is to hold the vacuum bag down to the mold. You want to put it on first before you wax the mold. Otherwise, if you have wax on the flange area where this is going to stick, it won't stick as well. Okay, next step, I like to blow out the mold with compressed air. And the next step is to use mold release wax. Hard all paste wax number 2 is my wax of preference for mold release. I like to put on a glove before I apply it because this stuff, it's a mold release wax, so it's not going to come off your skin very easily. Just apply it thoroughly all over the mold. On molds with very complex details like this, you have to just take your time. Whoa, hey. I was talking to myself out here.
Are you recording?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, you're not talking to yourself.
Well, I was, and you walked up.
Well, you're not talking to yourself if you're
Hey,
recording.
everybody, check out my half-naked wife.
I am half naked.
So what do you want to do? I wanted to watch the show. Are you okay?
Yeah, that's what I came here to get you to do.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't make that clear. I was just standing here.
Okay.
You're gonna laugh when you.
That's how you apply mold release wax to the mold. Let's go watch the show and let it dry. So I never actually made it back that night because who doesn't like spending quality time with their wife? So I started the next morning doing the same thing again. And yes, I am wearing the same thing I wore the night before. Because that's what happens when you work from home for 2.5 years. The next step is to cut our carbon fiber fabric to fit the mold. To cut the shape for this, it really helps to have a template. So one thing I've learned and done is I've made templates out of signboard. So the way this works, this part is going to be made up of multiple cuts. One big piece to fill the flat area, separate pieces for each of these eyelids, top and bottom, and then circles where the lenses go, which are actually going to be cut out, but we need to have that lip detail there. 10 cuts of fabric to make one outside facing taillight piece. Driver's side with the keyhole, that's a extra piece, 11 pieces. The reason I do it this way, people have tried this in the past. They will lay up the whole thing with one piece, and you can make it work. If you try hard enough, you can do pretty much anything, but is it going to look good? That's the question. And the answer is no, because the weave is all distorted. Some people don't mind that look because it shows that it's true carbon fiber. If you splice the pieces together strategically and know what you're looking for, you can blend them almost seamlessly and no one will ever know. That's actually what Henry did on his taillights, and it took me a year to realize, wow, that's how he made it. How did he get this weave so straight? I do want to show what happens if you try to do it one piece. This is a scrap piece of what's called reflections carbon fiber fabric. This comes from Composite Envisions. It's a fabric that they sell. It's actually a 3K 2x2 twill weave with the addition of a copper insert. So in the sun, it really sparkles red, and it's a nice effect. I actually hate working with this stuff because that copper filament makes any misalignments painfully obvious. A good fabric to use for this to show why you don't do this in one piece. So we're going to lay this into the mold. This is very hard to do. This stuff is very unforgiving. This kind of gives you the idea. It's very obvious by the red copper lines that this piece is distorted very badly. You got some very bad distortion here. Right here you can see the copper lines are going that direction, and over here they're going that direction. It's because we had to pull the fabric into that cavity, so it distorted it. And then over here, it's really bad right there in that corner. Going all over the place. So the point is, it's very hard to get an aesthetically pleasing weave from a single piece. Here's the fabric that we're going to be using. This is a brand new roll from Composite Envisions. This is 16 yards of their 12K 2x2 twill. Before I make any cuts, I make sure that the fabric is as straight as possible. In the world of fabrics, this direction, the direction of the roll is called the warp, and then everything perpendicular to that is called the weft. We make sure the warp and the weft toes are as straight as possible, and these aren't. Just take some painter's tape. I'll find where I'm going to cut, tape it along the toe running there. This will be enough for one tail light. Next tail light, there's that broken toe right there, so I'm actually going to skip and go all the way to the edge. And then I'll use the space in between them to cut the eyelids. What I'm going to do now is continue this all the way across and just follow the toe. It may not be very obvious from the camera, but it's not straight. It goes like that. When you're making cosmetic parts, it's crucial to have your weave as straight as possible. You can't have it 100% perfect, but you can get it close. And that's my objective with the parts that I'm making, is to get as close to perfect as possible, which is why I throw away a lot of stuff that I make. It's not good enough for me, it's not good enough for my customers. So now we can grab both ends and pull to the sides, and that should help straighten this out. And there it is. So I have templates for the eyelids. It's important to be aware of the twill line when cutting out the eyelids. So for the passenger side, go like this. And because you want the twill line running this direction, you want to cut the eyelids like that for the passenger side. For the driver's side, it's going to be this direction. It's really delicate. First piece of fabric cut, we need to stabilize it, otherwise it'll shift all over the place as we're cutting it. And as we're cutting it, it'll fray. Let me show you real quickly what happens, what that looks like. Here's a loose piece of scrap 6K. So if I was to just cut this, let's say right there, look how it's just falling apart. I'm gonna try to cut a U shape out of it very carefully. Just like that. You can kind of get a clean cut there, but you can see there's just loose toes just literally falling out. If you tug on it the wrong way, I'm not even trying that hard. And look at that, it's just falling. It's falling apart completely. Now it's useless. So if you were to try to do that with this fabric, try to cut out the holes here and around the edges, you're gonna get a lot of fraying. It's not gonna look pretty. So the way I do it, I use a material called carbon fiber veil. It's kind of like tissue paper, but made out of carbon. It'll tear if you give it enough force, but otherwise it'll stay together. And if you spray tack this to a loose fabric, it'll hold it together. So you're not going to see this. This is on the back side of the part. When this is infused with resin, the veil virtually disappears. If you put it on the visible side, you would definitely see it. The part would look darker. You wouldn't see the twill line as much, but it is almost transparent. With the veil on, you can still see your weave, you can still see the twill line, so you know which orientation the fabric is going to be in. This stuff is so lightweight, does not take much to cut it. So the way I do this is I use spray tack. So specifically it's 3M 71. This is a spray adhesive made for composites. So the residue from the glue won't show up on the cosmetic surface of the part unless you're just careless and spray too much. So the way I do this, instead of spraying on the table and getting glue everywhere, making a mess, I like to lay this on top of the trash can. Just spray a light in this. So just carefully spread it out. I'm going to start from this side. So let's take our template. We're working on the passenger side, so we're going to use this side of the template. And the way that I like to mark my cut lines is with a white paint pen. And I'll just draw around the template. Here's our cut for the passenger side housing. So ideally, when you go to production, you're making a bunch of these as fast as possible. You want to kit. What that means is you're going to pre-cut all of this stuff ahead of time. So you just have everything cut, laid up, and stacked, ready to go. Clean the mold, lay it up, infuse the part, pop the part, clean the mold, and repeat. Not having to do all of this in between. This is the part that sucks the most about carbon fiber. Having to cut every layer individually, having it all kitted out ahead of time saves you a lot of effort because you're changing context. If you're in the context of cutting fabric to a template, it's easier to do that 20 times as opposed to doing it once, doing the mold work, doing the infusion, and coming back and doing the cutting again every single time. Let's get to cutting the eyelids. For the passenger side light, the twill line is going to go perpendicular to that edge. That way for passenger, that way for driver. That's how I know. Do the same thing for the other templates. Okay. Pretty foolproof, even for me. So I'm going to line this edge up with the twill line going this direction. And then I will, again, mark it with a paint pen. Let's go ahead and cut these out. Okay, there's one eyelid. There's another. It's nice to wear gloves in doing this, but it's also hot, like 95 degrees out here. So with nitrile gloves on, my hands just become pools of sweat within 5 minutes. I'd rather just wash my hands after I cut. It's best to do it over the trash can so that the loose cut pieces just fall straight down. It's less to clean up later. Last thing to do here is to cut it straight down the middle. All right, so I'll clean this up real quick. When working with carbon fiber, a good shop vac is essential. There's so much crap that gets just randomly tossed around the work area. You can't just wipe it, you have to suck it up. For making these straight cuts, I like to use my Olfa knife on this cutting surface. Make a straight cut. If the blade is sharp enough, it will actually cut straight through the carbon fiber and the veil in this case. So there's one, perfect cut. You cannot do this without the carbon fiber veil tacked onto the surface of the twill weave. This twill weave would just fall apart. I kind of want to show that, how easy it is to do. Scrap 6K again. Just going to lay it out. I'm going to try to cut a perfect diagonal line this way. Watch what happens. See that? It cut, but it distorted the weave so badly, and you can't push it back together without having the whole thing fall apart. See how easy that is? That's how easy it is to ruin carbon fiber. That's why the veil is so nice, because once it's on there, you can't distort the weave. I mean, you could if you really, really tried, but the veil holds it together really nice. We're not done yet. Those are just the eyelids. So next is this. So these are a little intimidating when you first look at them, because you want to get a nice, clean cut in those circles. You can do it with shears, but you risk bunching the fabric together. If it's not sharp enough, it can just pull the fabric together, and it's hard to come back from that. So I like to use the knife to at least start it. So I'm going to start on the biggest one here. Just carefully follow that line. There it is. 2 more to go. That's the first time that's happened. Hopefully the cosmetic side is not messed up. Flip it over, inspect it. Ah, shit. Yeah, this is the first time this has happened. See that? The toe's pulled out that direction, so we got a skipped toe there. If we use this for the cosmetic layer, it'll be obvious, and this is no good. We can use this on the back side, or as a second ply. It's not visible, but that's the basics of it. So if you can get these holes cut without ruining the fabric like that. Let's try this again. Got a new piece of fabric cut, got our veil. Now it's cut. We got it. That looks good. So the weave is intact. Just inspect it one more time. I want to make sure that there are no loose strands or any other crap in the weave that'll mess up our finish. It looks good. So we'll spring over the mold and tack this in. So just like with the veil, I like to spray this into the trash can. So it doesn't take much, just very light mist. That's all it takes. We're going to take our fabric, first piece of fabric, and just carefully lay it into the mold. I like to start at this corner. So this corner, the fabric's bunching up. This part's going to be trimmed off on the finished part, so we can just snip it right there and let it lay. Make sure everything is tight. If you have any voids between the fabric and the mold, that'll fill with resin, and then you'll have a resin-rich area, which will look like crap, and the part is trash. Very nice. Okay, there's our first layer. Now we're gonna do the eyelids. So let's spray some tack there. First piece, so remember to lay it with the veil side facing up. And then here's something that is challenging to do. You need to press this edge into that recess. Otherwise you'll have a resin-rich area like I was talking about. Work it in, and then lay it over that edge. So I had this happen on, I think, a few parts ago. I'll show you. So on this part, I've taped it to show that it's second qualities. I'll probably paint this like gloss black and it'll look good. The clear carbon fiber part is no good. This is what happens here when you don't check thoroughly that the fabric is pressed into every tight space on the mold. You'll get areas like this that have only resin, and you can't fix that. Worse, this is the other path. This is the passenger side. So you can see here, this is actually right there. So we want to make sure we press that reinforcement fabric all the way down. Otherwise this happens. You get a clear spot around the lip, which is very obvious. Happened again over here. Once again with a stir stick, just press it down in there. Good. And we'll do the other side now. This side's a little easier because there's no groove to seat it in. All right, last one. Last one. Okay, I still see some orange. This is another reason why we use very bright tooling gel coat. If you can see the orange there, that tells you that you don't have enough coverage. So if this gel coat was black, you would never know. So we need to add a little bit of extra carbon fiber there, just to cover that spot. All right, that's it. Once you get the carbon fiber fabric down, there's three more layers after that. You get the peel ply, your infusion mesh, and then the vacuum bagging film itself. So we got a piece cut using our template, same template that I used to cut the carbon fiber. And now we're going to do the same thing, cut out these circles. I'm not going to worry so much about the eyelids like we did last time. Actually, we are. Man, this is such a pain in the ass. So we're going to do this just like we did with the carbon fiber fabric. We're going to use the knife to cut out these circles. These don't need to be perfect because, like the name suggests, this is literally getting peeled off after the resin infusion is complete. So the purpose of the peel ply is it gives you a layer of material that you can literally peel off the back of your part when it's done, when the resin is cured. Without this, your vacuum bag and anything else between the vacuum bag and the carbon fiber fabric is going to be stuck to the mold. You're going to be stuck to the part forever. The peel ply gives you kind of a barrier between that, so you can just literally peel it off. And also gives you a bit of a flow medium, so the resin can flow in this. Not very fast, which is why you have a separate resin flow layer. It's just part of the game. So here's our first cut of peel ply. Let's bring our mold back. So you don't want to spray tack this whole thing to the mold because you want it to actually be able to shift so slightly while the vacuum is pulling down. So the peel ply is a cloth, just like the carbon fiber beneath it, but it's not as drapable because I believe it's a plane weave. So you have to do this in multiple pieces and make sure that they're all flat against the mold, as flat against the mold as possible. Otherwise, you're gonna have bridging when you pull a vacuum, and that's no fun. Okay, I think for the peel ply, we're gonna do these all in single pieces. So I'm gonna set these in the trash. Really, those aren't useful at all anymore. Yeah, when the bag pulls down, it'll be able to. This will slip into place. It's not bad to have overlapping layers of peel ply because this gives your resin more space to flow. There's nothing wrong with that. I like to use the blunt edge of the knife here to just work it in. We need a little more here, so I save the excess. We have full coverage of peel ply except for there and there. You don't want any carbon fiber exposed because these filaments are actually thin and sharp enough to puncture the vacuum bag, and one small pinhole puncture is all it takes to ruin your part. So we want to avoid that. I like to have the peel ply go up to the edge of the mold, right there. Okay, so we have full coverage with peel ply. Next step is the infusion mesh. So right here is the infusion mesh I like to use, and I bought a ton of it because I'm always running out. So I have a template that I cut for cutting the exact amount and shape of infusion mesh that we need. I want to cut this out with a knife. This is so easy to cut because it's just plastic. It's a plastic mesh. Okay. Let's get this out of the way. So the trick with this template is I've cut horseshoes here for the eyelids, so I can actually do the infusion mesh in one piece. There it is. That's it. That's the infusion mesh. So let's put this to the side. Bring back our mold. And now we're going to lay our infusion mesh in there. So we want a little bit of a lip here, so the resin can come in to the part. Next, we need a way of getting our resin into the mold. Spiral tubing, the stuff. This is actually like wire organizer. It's great for getting resin into the flow medium. This is going to be the resin feed side. So we want our tubing to come up to the edge of the flow mesh right there. So we're going to put tape around there. Wrap some tacky tape around the tubing right there. What I like to do is put the resin feed right in the middle of where the part is to be infused, and then shove two ends of the spiral tubing into the 3/8 inch tubing, just like that. And I'll cut this end, and then I'll come back, open this up, push it into place, and then spread this out. So we have a little bit of excess here, which is fine. It's as far out as it needs to go. And then we'll secure it right there with duct tape. Duct tape also serves as a way of softening the edge of the tube. If it's too sharp, it can puncture the bag and then ruin the part. There's many ways to ruin the part. Okay, then I'll put some duct tape all the way across the tubing as well. This is our vacuum side. For the vacuum side, we want the vacuum tubes as far away as possible from the part. So right about here is good. Put the tacky tape right there. Go ahead and place it. Go ahead and spread this out. Again, we're going to use duct tape. So you're going to see when we do the infusion that the reason you put the vacuum line so far away from the part area, the reason that we stopped the infusion mesh so close to the edge of the part instead of running all the way out is that we don't want the resin to run quickly all the way across. We want to have what's called a resin break. It's literally a break between the flow medium and the vacuum lines that it slows down the resin flow, because the resin flows fast across the flow medium. When it hits the fuel ply, it slows down because it can't flow as well, and that gives the part an opportunity to fully saturate with resin. Once the resin hits the vacuum lines, you're done. There's no more opportunity to fully saturate the fibers. I'm going to give it enough time to do that. The last layer of what's called the infusion stack, all these layers we've been putting on, is the vacuum bag itself. It's literally been 24 hours since the footage at the beginning of this video. I'm finding out that it's taking 3 times as long to make parts when I talk about how I'm making the parts. The bagging film that I like to use is made by Airtech. It's called Stretchlon 800. Cutting bagging film for your mold, you want to keep in mind that you're creating pleats. Pleats being vertical folds like this around the perimeter of the mold. We need to cut a piece of bagging film that is 20 by 30. Good. And then straight across. There it is. There's our vacuum bag. Crap. It's fine. So now is the time when we actually use the tacky tape for what it was intended for. Before we put the bagging film down, we need to put down extra tape for the pleats. 2 5-inch strips. Peel back a little bit of wax paper and then stick it to tacky tape already on the mold, just like that. And do the same thing on the other side. So we want to place the pleat right in the middle of the part. There and there. So let's go ahead and start in a corner. Start in this corner right here, and go down this side. And then we'll do the same thing in this direction. Okay. Yeah. So if you make a mistake, if you tug really fast like that, you can pull the film off of the tape. If you try to pull it very lightly like that, it's not going to happen. Put this back. And start from this corner. Pull this up. Tack the center right there. Work it down, across. I'm going to pull this wax paper out very carefully. And there's our first pleat, just like that. Gosh, I'm tired. It's like 3 in the morning. If I wasn't talking to the camera so much right now, I would be done already. So I'm just gonna shut up, get this done. It's late. I'm ready to be done with this shit. We're gonna do a drop test on our vacuum bag right now. Make sure we got full vacuum with this bag. And when we verify that it's good, I'm gonna mix some resin in this cup and then put this tube in it, clamp this tube in there, unclamp this line, and then we're gonna watch the resin flow into the part. I'm gonna fire with the vacuum pump, and hopefully this all pulls down as expected. Need to move the bagging film around so that it can get into all the tight spaces. So. Bag is tight. Vacuum is still going down. So now the next morning, again, this is the result. Makeshift oven was effective at getting this to 180 degrees with a space heater. And an hour is all that you need to cure this. This looks great. Let's get this thing on the table and demold it. We're gonna peel the tacky tape off the mold with the vacuum bag. Here's where you're gonna see how much trash you produce when making parts. All the layers above the carbon fiber are what are called consumables. You use them once, you throw them away. And you do it for every single part. Alright, that's good enough. The rest of the bag will peel off with the peel ply. At this point, you want to wear gloves. The edges of the carbon fiber piece are razor sharp. It sucks to wear gloves in this heat, but it's better than having a 4-inch gash on your hand. Just get off the peel ply. We remove the peel ply when the part is still in the mold, because once it's out of the mold, it's very, very hard to separate the layers. There we go. Okay, well, that's what I was trying to avoid. Forget the peel ply. Let's just see how this turned out. And there's the part. Absolutely perfect. It couldn't be any better. So all the eyelids have the fabric orientation correct, as well as on the bottom. There are no spots with no reinforcement. There's a bit of a nib there. We can grind that off. Actually, that's actually wax. There we go. All done. If you look really closely there, you can barely tell that these pieces are butted together or overlapped. Looks like one continuous piece. That's how it's done. Everything you just saw done to produce this piece applies to the other three. So I'm not going to bother showing the same process again. If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching. This was a big production. It took me, I think, 3 solid days to collect footage and edit everything into this. So it means a lot if you watch this. The next part, part 3, final part, is going to be about taking all the parts made from these molds and combining them to make the finished taillights.